My mother-in-law, Clara, was a master manipulator, a woman who treated her son, Michael, less like a partner to me and more like a prized possession she grudgingly allowed me to borrow. Our relationship had always been a tense truce, punctuated by Clara's passive-aggressive remarks about my cooking, my career, or my inability to produce a grandchild fast enough. The tension escalated dramatically last year when Clara suffered a minor stroke. It wasn't life-threatening, but it left her needing daily assistance. Since Michael was an only child and Clara refused to consider a professional nursing home, they are cold places where they just wait for you to die, Anna. The responsibility fell squarely on us. Michael was working punishing hours as a senior architect, trying to keep up with the soaring mortgage on our new home. He insisted I take the lead. I had a flexible, remote consulting job, so I reluctantly agreed to become Clara's primary caregiver. This meant moving Clara from her cozy, cluttered condo into the spare room of our house. The moment she crossed our threshold, the uneasy truce was over. It became a cold war, fought over medication schedules, television remotes, and most frequently, Michael's attention. Clara thrived on attention, particularly Michael's. Before the stroke, she would call him 6 times a day. After the stroke, she became a martyr, convinced she was wasting away and that only Michael's presence could save her. "Anna, dear," she would sigh dramatically, "could you tell Michael that I think I feel another flutter? If he doesn't check my pulse, I fear the worst will happen while he's gone." When Michael was home, she became instantly incapacitated. She couldn't reach the water glass. She needed her pillow fluffed, and her pain level soared to a 9 out of 10, until Michael left the room, at which point her pain magically dropped to a 2, allowing her to lecture me on my dusting technique. I spent my days running her errands, managing her medication, and being the silent target of her constant criticism. I was exhausted, stressed, and resentful, but I kept telling myself I was doing this for Michael and out of a grim sense of familial duty. The incident started subtly. One morning, I left her breakfast tray, toast, jam, and a cup of tea, on her bedside table before taking a quick shower. When I came back, the jam was smeared across the white carpet, and Clara was weeping hysterically. "Anna, I'm so sorry. I tried to reach it, but my hands just aren't what they used to be," she cried. "I know how much you hate stains. Don't tell Michael, please." I spent 20 minutes scrubbing the carpet, knowing full well she had an electric bell by her bedside she could have used. Another time, I carefully laid out her 4 daily medications, a blood thinner, a multivitamin, and 2 blood pressure pills, in separate compartments. When Michael came home that evening, Clara tearfully showed him the empty box. "I think Anna got confused, darling," she said sweetly, giving me a look that dared me to deny it. "She accidentally gave me all 4 pills at once. I hope I don't die." Michael, horrified, checked the medicine box. "Mom, there are 4 slots, 1 for each dose. Anna is very careful. Are you sure you didn't just take them all?" "Oh, Michael, you always rush to defend her," Clara wailed, instantly turning Michael's suspicion into guilt. "I must have been so dizzy I don't remember." But I felt faint after the pills. I was already on the defensive. My meticulous organization was my only shield against her chaos. But even Michael, who loved me deeply, was beginning to look strained and worried. The constant drama was working. Michael was spending more time with his mother, canceling our dinner plans, and often checking on her pulse in the middle of the night. The breaking point came with the bruise. Clara was fairly weak on her right side due to the stroke. One afternoon, while helping her transfer from her wheelchair to the sofa, she slipped. I caught her, but she landed awkwardly, and her arm brushed against the corner of the wooden end table. It resulted in a small, ugly, purple bruise on her forearm. I immediately applied ice and covered it with a long-sleeved shirt. I felt terrible, despite knowing it was a simple accident that could happen to any caregiver. When Michael returned home that night, Clara was conspicuously wearing a short-sleeved nightgown. Michael was helping her put her feet up when he spotted the bruise. "Mom!" "What happened here?" he asked, instantly alarmed. Clara looked at me, a tiny, triumphant smile playing on her lips, before letting out a soft, theatrical moan. "Oh, darling, it's nothing," she sighed. "Just a little thing that happened today." Anna was assisting me, and she was having a bad day. She was a bit rough, that's all. I told her not to worry, it's just a bruise. Michael looked up at me. His face wasn't angry, but it was filled with deep, weary doubt. "Anna? What did you do?" That was the moment I realized this was no longer a game of attention. This was a calculated, insidious attempt to paint me as incompetent, neglectful, and perhaps even dangerous. The goal wasn't just to steal Michael's time. The goal was to get me out of the house. The weary doubt on Michael's face ignited a sudden surge of fury in me. I had spent all day tending to this woman, enduring her every minor caprice. And now I was being deliberately framed as an abuser. "What did I do, Michael?" I asked, my voice unexpectedly trembling. What happened is that her arm bumped the side table while I was helping her transfer from the chair. An accident. But I know it wasn't because I was having a bad day or being rough, as your mother suggested. Michael looked utterly exhausted from being caught between us. "Anna, please. She's fragile. She had a stroke. Maybe her memory is confused for a moment. I just want you to be careful." "Her memory isn't confused, Michael," I whispered, the tone now more of a warning than an accusation. "She's doing this. It's a game. She resents my claim on your attention, and she is trying to maneuver me out of this house. It started with small things, the jam, the pills. Now she's escalating to physical evidence." Clara sat quietly on the sofa, her head tilted slightly. Only her eyes spoke. "He won't believe you. You lose." Michael sighed deeply. "Look, you are both under immense stress. My mother is sensitive. You are exhausted. I will call an agency tomorrow. It's time we get professional help." This offer, which should have brought relief, only fueled my anger. This was exactly what Clara wanted, to have me dismissed as an incompetent caregiver, but at the cost of my reputation. "No, Michael," I said firmly, "I will continue to care for her. But I will do it differently. From now on, neither she nor I will be alone." Starting that evening, I implemented a new system for Clara's care. This was not just to protect her, but to shield myself. Step 1. I installed Michael's old home security camera in Clara's room. I stated clearly, "For your mother's safety." Clara immediately objected. "Anna, this is a violation of my privacy. Are you going to watch me going to the bathroom?" "No, only the general area of the bed and the commode," I replied, positioning the camera high to capture the bed and the nightstand. "The doctor said we must monitor her to reduce fall risk after the stroke." Clara was too stubborn to openly argue against a safety measure, especially with Michael's backing. Now I would have proof of her actions behind closed doors. Step 2. I tightened my communication protocol. I kept conversations with Clara as brief as possible and minimized all unnecessary physical contact. Before giving her medication, I always took a picture, and after every interaction, I spoke loudly about what was done. "Clara, I am now giving you your blood thinner. It is 10 a.m. Clara despised my cold, procedural approach. She stopped calling me dear and used only Anna, and a new, more dangerous glint appeared in her eyes. She felt cornered, and cornered manipulators are the most dangerous. A few days later, I woke to a shriek from Clara's room. Michael was just getting ready to leave for work. We both raced in. Clara was sitting rigidly in bed, her eyes wide with manufactured terror, holding out her left arm. "My arm!" she screamed. "I can't feel my arm, Anna!" She squeezed my arm last night when I told her I forgot my pills. Michael immediately rushed to the bed, checking her arm. "Mom!" "What happened here? Is it numb? Let's call the doctor." "She hit me, son," Clara whispered, her voice barely audible. Her eyes were fixed on mine, and this time I saw that she had aimed for a bruise much larger and more noticeable than the accidental one. "Anna hit me. She was angry because I said I forgot my medication." Michael turned to me, his face bleached white. This lie was far bigger than the accidental bruise. This was a clear accusation of elder abuse. "Anna, is this true?" Michael asked. His voice wasn't that of a loving husband defending his wife. It was the voice of a man terrified to learn the truth. I wasn't going to argue. This was her final, desperate move to get rid of me. I looked calmly at Michael. "Call the doctor and the police immediately, Michael. Elder abuse is a serious crime. I will check the camera in the meantime." The triumphant expression on Clara's face instantly froze at the mention of the camera. Her eyes widened in panic. That was not part of her plan. Michael was still in a state of shock, unsure how to proceed. His hand hovered between his phone and his mother's pulse point. "The police. Are you sure, Anna? My mother might be lying, but calling the police—" "Yeah, if I'm innocent, I have nothing to fear, Michael," I said, my voice incredibly calm, though I was churning inside. "And if your mother's claim is true, which she seems keen to prove, then we need the police for her safety. Now call the doctor. I'm checking the camera." Clara's panic was now undeniable. The look of agony on her face had been replaced by pure, monumental fear. "No, no camera," she screamed, her voice sharp and unexpected. "Michael, don't you trust me? Why do you need the camera? I'm just an old woman and I'm scared. You don't need to rewind anything." Michael looked at his mother. Clara's desperation clearly signaled her deception. Michael knew the camera was in the room. He had helped install it. Her sharp, sudden refusal finally planted the seed of deep suspicion. "Mom, if Anna hit you, the camera will prove it. Why don't you want us to watch the footage?" Michael asked, his voice now not weary but accusatory. Clara burst into theatrical sobs. "It was just— I was embarrassed. I yelled at her and she yelled back. It was just an embarrassing argument. It wasn't abuse, just harsh words." "You're lying," I said, leaving the room and walking toward the study, "and I'm going to prove it." In the study, I logged into the security camera application on my computer. The logs showed motion detection around 1:30 a.m., exactly the time frame Clara had pointed to when she claimed, "Anna hit me." Michael, meanwhile, was on the phone, calling his mother's primary care physician. I started the playback. Footage 1, 01:30 a.m. Clara was sitting wide awake in her bed. The room was dark, but the infrared captured everything clearly. Clara slowly reached over to her nightstand, opened the drawer, and pulled out a small, dark-tipped makeup brush. Footage 2, deliberate self-harm. Clara, with slow, deliberate movements, began applying whatever was on the brush to the side of her neck, then her cheek, and the outer part of her left forearm. I couldn't tell exactly what was on the brush, but I watched as Clara meticulously rubbed it in, occasionally checking her reflection in a compact mirror. She was creating bruises. Footage 3, the setup. The process took nearly 10 minutes. Clara carefully blended the bruise, working like an artist on a canvas. When finished, a dark, wickedly realistic discoloration remained. She quickly hid the brush back in the drawer and then settled under the covers, seemingly waiting for the moment she would raise the alarm. My breath hitched. This was not a simple game of jealousy. This was aggravated slander and self-inflicted harm designed to send me to jail. Michael walked into the study, deep worry etched across his face. The doctor is on the way. Mom says whatever it wasn't serious, but Anna, you have to tell the truth. I turned to Michael, my eyes resolute. Clara doesn't have to tell the truth. I found the proof. Come and watch this with your own eyes. I pulled Michael to the computer and played the footage. Michael was silent as he watched his mother wake up, retrieve the secret makeup brush, and carefully create the fake bruises on her own arm and face. His silence was so profound that only the whirring of the computer fan filled the room. When the footage ended, Michael was rigid. The worry on his face slowly transformed into pure, intense rage, and it wasn't directed at me. She did this to herself, he whispered in disbelief. She was setting me up for the exact moment when she would call me and claim, Anna hit me. All those little accidents. Were they all lies? The pills? The jam? The bruises? I confirmed. All of it was designed to get your attention and get rid of me. But this last move, this was a move to frame me for elder abuse, Michael. Michael turned and walked straight toward his mother's room, his face wearing an expression I will never forget. The shame of a child who is utterly disgusted by his parent. He opened the door and walked in. Mom, Michael said, his voice low and dangerous. I'm calling the doctor right now and I'm going to tell him exactly what happened. And you are going to face the consequences for slandering Anna. Clara sat up in bed, panicked. No. Michael, my son, I was just joking. I wanted you to see how jealous she was. Please, I swear, it was just a bad joke. This is attempted criminal framing, Mom, Michael said, his voice hard. And I watched it all on camera. This is a disgusting betrayal, Mother. You are going to apologize to Anna right now. Just then, the doorbell rang. The doctor had arrived. But this time, the gravity of the situation was entirely different. The doctor was not looking at a patient, but at a manipulative liar who had tried to fabricate a crime. The arrival of Dr. Evans immediately shifted the dynamic. Michael met him at the doorway to Clara's room, not allowing the doctor past the threshold. "Doctor," Michael began, his voice tight with controlled fury. My mother has made a serious accusation of abuse against my wife, claiming she suffered injuries last night. We called you to examine her, but I need you to understand something first. I have video footage that shows my mother applying the bruises to herself with makeup. Dr. Evans, a seasoned man who had clearly seen every variety of family dysfunction, raised an eyebrow. He looked at me, then at Michael, taking in the intense emotional energy in the hallway. "Mr. Miller, I understand," the doctor said calmly. "However, I still need to assess Mrs. Miller's mental and physical state, particularly given the stress in her stroke history." Michael stepped aside, allowing the doctor to enter. The scene inside the room was pitiful. Clara was sobbing theatrically, her hands pressed to her face, strategically showing the obviously fake bruises. "Doctor, thank heavens you're here," Clara wailed, trying to regain control of the narrative. "My son is being cruel. He's siding with his wife. She did this to me. Look at what she did." Dr. Evans, a professional, ignored the dramatics and began his examination. He gently touched the discoloration on her forearm and cheek. He then looked at the makeup on his own fingertips. "Mrs. Miller," he said, his voice quiet but authoritative, "these marks are cosmetic. They are topical and not consistent with blunt force trauma. In fact, they feel like stage makeup. Clara's face froze mid-sob. The attempt to manipulate the medical professional had failed spectacularly. "This is outrageous!" Clara shrieked, her voice suddenly strong and clear, a voice she hadn't used since the stroke. "You're all lying! Anna forced me to do it. She threatened me. She said if I didn't frame myself, she would do something worse." I stepped into the doorway holding up my phone, which was playing back the crystal-clear infrared footage of her applying the makeup. "I have the footage, Clara. It shows you waking up at 1:30 a.m., taking the brush from the drawer and applying the makeup to yourself. No one else was in the room." Clara stared at the phone, and for the first time, her defiance collapsed. Her true fear wasn't about the doctor or the police. It was about Michael. She realized she had used her last weapon and it had backfired, exposing her as a cruel, desperate liar to the only person whose love she truly valued. Michael finally spoke, his voice heavy with finality. "Doctor, based on this pattern of behavior and the fact that my mother has attempted to maliciously file a false report against my wife, I need to make a change. I am concerned about her emotional health. I am going to contact a legal guardian and begin the process of moving her into a facility that can provide the necessary emotional and physical supervision." Clara completely lost control. "No, Michael, you can't. You promised. I'm your mother. You want to put me in a home? After all I've done for you? She is turning you against me. Don't let her win." Michael didn't even look at her. He looked at Dr. Evans. "Can you recommend a social worker or a legal aid, doctor?" "I need to move quickly to ensure my wife is safe from further slander and my mother is safe from herself." Dr. Evans nodded, clearly understanding the gravity of the situation. He recognized that leaving Clara with me was dangerous, and leaving her alone was irresponsible. Michael then turned to me. His expression was exhausted but clear. "Anna, I owe you an apology. A profound one. I doubted you. I let her lies pollute our marriage. I am so sorry for what she put you through. I should have trusted you over her." "I accept your apology, Michael," I said, the relief of his trust finally washing over me. "But this is bigger than us. If we don't take legal action now, she will do this to someone else, or she will hurt herself and blame us." We spent the rest of the day on the phone with lawyers, social services, and care facility administrators. Michael took a personal leave from work. His focus shifted entirely from his career to dealing with the toxic legacy his mother had created. The decision was made. We would not press criminal charges against Clara for filing a false police report, but only on the condition that she agree to immediate admittance to a high-supervision nursing and rehabilitation center specializing in post-stroke behavior and mental health. This move was framed legally as a necessity for her protection and rehabilitation, effectively silencing her from the outside world. I watched as the social worker and Michael gently escorted Clara out of the house later that evening. She was weeping, pleading, but her tears no longer moved me. I saw only the woman who had tried to steal my life. I stood by the window and watched Michael and the social worker gently assist Clara into the specialized transport van. The scene was quiet, efficient, and utterly devoid of the drama that had defined the past few weeks. Clara's muffled sobs inside the van no longer sounded like a plea for love. They sounded like the frustrated cry of a defeated tyrant. When Michael returned, He looked like a man who had finally put down a burden that had weighed him down since childhood. The house was silent, and the silence was restorative. "It's over, Anna," he whispered, wrapping his arms around me. "The doctor arranged a temporary legal guardianship until we can get the court order finalized. She's in the best place for her, a locked facility that understands the psychological impact of her stroke and her need for control." The next few months were dedicated to legal work and emotional healing. Michael had to face the reality of his mother's true character, the woman who would sacrifice her son's marriage and her daughter-in-law's freedom just to maintain her central position in his life. He also had to confront his own complicity, the years he spent allowing her manipulation to thrive because confronting her was simply too difficult. We made the mutual decision to pursue no criminal charges against Clara. The legal fight for criminal elder abuse charges, even when dropped, would have been brutal, public, and costly, and would have consumed years of our lives. The consequence of being permanently exiled from Michael's home and life, placed under supervised care, and stripped of her ability to manipulate, was a far more fitting and profound punishment for Clara. Michael's relationship with his mother became purely administrative. He visited her once a week, always with the social worker present. Clara continued to claim I had threatened her, but the surveillance footage, now logged as evidence with the facility, neutralized her every word. She was cornered, and the knowledge that every lie was instantly debunked broke her spirit more effectively than any prison sentence. For me, the trauma ran deep. The constant fear of being framed, the exhaustion of constantly defending my actions, and the profound disappointment in a woman I had once respected took its toll. I quit my remote consulting job, realizing I needed a complete break from the environment that had witnessed my suffering. Michael, thankfully, was unwavering in his support. He understood that his priority had shifted entirely. Our marriage had survived the ultimate betrayal, not from within, but from an external toxic force that had tried to tear us apart. We started counseling, focusing on how we could prevent external forces from ever defining our relationship again. The greatest relief came 6 months later, when the court finalized the guardianship and the permanent care placement. Clara's house was sold to cover her extensive medical costs, erasing the last physical tie she had to our shared life. I never visited Clara in the facility. I saw no reason to give her the satisfaction of my presence. The day I learned about the surveillance footage, the day I watched her apply those fake bruises, my compassion for her ended. It was replaced by a cold, protective resolve. One evening, I found Michael sitting in the study, staring at the exact spot where he had watched the incriminating video. "I still don't understand how she could do it, Anna," he said quietly. "How a mother could try to destroy her own son's life like that." "She didn't see you as her son, Michael," I replied, sitting beside him. "She saw you as her property." And I was simply a threat to her ownership. She thought she could win, but she failed. We deleted the security camera footage that night, not because we wanted to forget, but because we no longer needed the evidence. The truth was etched permanently into our marriage, not as a weakness, but as a scar of survival. We ended up adopting a rescue dog a few months later, a decision that was entirely ours, free from the shadow of Clara's disapproval. Our house, once dominated by the antiseptic smell of illness and the suffocating tension of control, finally became a true home. A sanctuary built on honesty, trust, and the painful knowledge that sometimes the most profound love requires the most brutal boundaries. We had survived the ultimate attack, and in doing so, we finally found the peace we deserved.